I'm Emma, 29. Until last month, I believed family meant truth, loyalty, and unconditional love. Then, at my grandmother's funeral, I overheard something that shattered everything I thought I knew. She doesn't even know she's adopted. That whisper hit harder than any goodbye. My parents never told me. They raised me, loved me, but kept this secret buried for decades. What they didn't know was that I had been putting my own life on hold to take care of them for years. Every sacrifice, every choice I made, was rooted in a life I thought was fully mine. Before I tell you how everything unraveled, let me share something that makes this even harder to believe. What if the one person who always told me the truth, my grandmother, was the only one who tried to protect me? What else were they hiding from me? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The wind whipped around me, carrying the scent of damp earth and fresh-cut flowers. I stood at the edge of my grandmother's grave, the soft murmurs of the priest's voice blending into a distant hum, like a lullaby I'd heard long ago. My heart felt heavy, not only with grief, but also with a strange weight of unasked questions that had lingered in the corners of my mind since childhood. Family gatherings had always been filled with laughter and warmth. Yet there were moments, fleeting, whispers, furtive glances, where I felt a chasm between myself and those I loved. I scanned the faces surrounding me, some familiar, some strangers, and a disquieting thought settled in my chest. What is family, really? Just as the ceremony reached its peak, the priest intoned words about legacy and love, and a sudden realization struck me like a bolt from the blue. My grandmother had always known something about my past that I didn't. A truth hovered just beyond my reach, and the weight of it was suffocating. I felt it in the marrow of my bones. This was the moment. Everything would change. I took a deep breath, allowing the crisp air to fill my lungs, but it seemed to get caught in my throat. My gaze drifted back to the casket, adorned with flowers that my grandmother had loved. Daisies, peonies, and roses. Each petal felt like a memory, sweet, yet bittersweet. I could hear my mother's soft sobs, a sound that twisted my heart with each note of sorrow. She'd always been so strong, yet here she seemed fragile, lost in her own grief. Suddenly, I caught sight of my uncle standing off to the side, his expression inscrutable. I recalled how he'd always been a little distant, the kind of man who kept his secrets close. I had never been able to read him, and that unknowing filled me with a sense of unease. The priest's words faded into a blur, and I was lost in my thoughts. Did my grandmother ever mean to tell me? Did she know the truth about my origins? It felt like the ground beneath me was shifting, and I struggled to maintain my balance. And may we remember her not only for her kindness, but for the lessons she imparted. The priest continued. I felt the collective sigh of the crowd as they nodded in agreement, but my mind was racing. What lessons had she left for me? Was my identity intertwined with the stories I had yet to uncover? As the final prayers were said, I found my feet moving, almost as if guided by an unseen force. I stepped away from the crowd, needing space to breathe, to think. The graveside was a world of its own, filled with echoes of laughter from family reunions, the warmth of shared meals, and the shadow of unspoken truths. I walked a few paces away, drawn to a nearby tree that had stood strong and tall for decades. Its branches swayed gently above me, whispering secrets I could not yet decipher. I leaned against the rough bark, closing my eyes as memories flooded back. My grandmother's laughter, her stories of resilience, and the way she held my hand, making me feel safe in a world that often felt uncertain. What if she had known? What if she had been waiting for the right moment to share? My heart raced at the thought, and I opened my eyes, scanning the faces of my family once more. Each one of them carried their own stories, their own burdens. But mine felt particularly heavy today, as if the weight of my unknown heritage was pressing down on me, begging to be uncovered. As the ceremony concluded, I felt an urge to confront the silence that had surrounded my questions for so long. I turned back toward the gathering, my heart pounding in my chest. I needed to know, needed to understand who I truly was. "Excuse me," I called out, my voice trembling but resolute. Heads turned, and my family looked at me with a mix of concern and curiosity. "I need to talk to someone about Grandma, and about me." A collective pause hung in the air, a moment of disbelief and confusion. I could feel their eyes on me, searching for answers as much as I was. This is it, I thought, the moment of truth. The priest finished his final words, and I felt the weight of expectation settle on my shoulders. I stepped forward, my pulse quickening with the realization that I was about to break open a door that had long been closed. "Can someone tell me what Grandma knew? What she didn't tell me?" I asked, my voice rising with urgency. "I need to know." They shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances that spoke volumes. I could sense the hesitation, the fear of unearthing buried secrets, but I couldn't hold back any longer. "Please," I implored, desperation creeping into my tone. "I can't live with this uncertainty anymore." The silence stretched, heavy and palpable. Then, as if by unspoken agreement, my uncle stepped forward. His eyes were filled with a mixture of compassion and regret, and I knew this was the moment I had been waiting for. "I think it's time we talked," he said softly, his voice steady against the winds that swirled around us. As he began to speak, I felt a mix of fear and anticipation. What would he reveal? Would I finally understand the truth of who I was? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The air was thick with sorrow, the scent of lilies and aged wood mingling as the last of the eulogies faded into a solemn silence. I stood there, a silent observer amidst the tide of grief, my heart heavy not just with the loss of my grandmother, but with a growing unease that gripped me like a vice. I felt it before I heard it, the whispers that danced through the crowd, hushed voices wrapping around me like a shroud. "Did you hear? She was adopted," one voice murmured, barely above a whisper, yet the words felt like a gunshot, echoing in my ears. Another voice replied, tinged with regret. "They should have told her. Secrets don't stay buried forever." I turned, catching sight of my family, my parents, my aunts and uncles, eyes flickering toward me like moths drawn to a flame. Each glance felt like a dagger, sharp and piercing, igniting a fire of confusion. Deep within. Adoption? Secrets? My heart raced as anger surged through me, mixing with a desperate need for understanding. The funeral concluded, and as family members began to filter out, I felt my stomach twist in knots. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I found my parents sitting on the couch, their faces pale, an air of apprehension hanging between us like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice trembled, a tightness in my throat making it hard to breathe. "What is this I overheard about being adopted?" They exchanged glances, and in that moment, I saw the regret etched in their features, deep lines of worry and unspoken truths. My mother's hands trembled as she reached for mine, but I pulled away, fire in my eyes. "Don't. Just tell me." "The truth!" I demanded, desperation clawing at my chest. "Am I really adopted?" Her voice broke through the silence, trembling and raw. "Yes, sweetheart. You were adopted. We didn't know how to tell you. We thought We thought we were protecting you, protecting me. The word felt like poison on my tongue. Protecting me from what? The truth? Who am I? What am I? In that instant, the walls of my world began to crumble. I am not who I thought I was. I felt like an intruder in my own life, a ghost wandering through memories that now felt tainted and false. The love I had always believed to be unconditional now felt like it had strings attached, like I was a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Please just listen, my mother pleaded, her eyes filled with tears. We loved you from the moment we laid eyes on you. You were ours in every way that mattered. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was a story half told, a person pieced together from fragments of someone else's life. I need to know who my real parents are, I whispered, the words tasting bitter as they left my lips. I need to know where I came from. My father's face fell, and I could see the pain in his eyes. We don't know much. Just that your birth mother was young, and she made the hardest decision of her life. She chose to give you a chance at a better future. A future I had taken for granted. I felt my heart crack open, spilling out all the joy and certainty I had once held. I was defined by this new reality, by a decision made long before I drew my first breath. As I stepped back, the weight of the moment crashed down on me. I need space, I said, turning away, unable to bear the sight of their pity. I walked out of the room, the walls closing in around me, feeling suffocated by the very love that had once comforted me. Outside, the air was thick with the scent of rain, the sky a bruised gray. I had always loved rainy days, how the world felt washed clean, renewed. But today, the rain mirrored my heart, heavy and tumultuous. I wandered into the backyard, the familiar landscape dimmed by a haze of disbelief. I sank onto the swing set my father had built for me, memories of laughter and summer afternoons flooding my mind. How could everything feel so right yet so wrong? My heart raced as I grappled with the reality of it all. I was a stranger in my own story, caught between two worlds, one that had cradled me and one that had cast me aside. Questions spiraled, in my mind, each one more painful than the last. Who was I really? What did it mean to be adopted? I thought of my grandmother, her loving smile, the stories she'd shared. Had she known? Had she kept the secret safe, waiting for the right moment to reveal it? The world around me blurred as tears streamed down my face, each drop a release of the pent-up confusion, anger, and sorrow that had taken root in my heart. I felt so lost, so fragile, like a leaf tossed by the wind, uncertain of where I would land. A shadow fell across me, and I looked up to see my mother standing there, her face a mix of worry and love. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice laced with the weight of our shared pain. I nodded, my voice caught in my throat. She sat beside me, the swing creaking under our combined weight. "Your grandmother loved you fiercely," she began, her gaze drifting to the ground. "She was proud of the person you've become. But she also carried her own secrets, just like we did. The truth is, she wanted to tell you when the time was right, but we never found the right moment." "Why now? At her funeral?" I shot back, bitterness coating my words. Why did I have to find out like this? "Because we were scared," she admitted, tears glistening in her eyes. "Scared of how you would react, scared of losing you. But we were wrong. You deserve to know. Deserve to know." The phrase echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of the years lost to silence. What if I don't want to be part of this family anymore? I whispered, the words tasting foreign and terrifying. "You will always be our daughter," she said, reaching for my hand. "No matter what. Our love for you is unshakable, but we understand if you need time to process all of this." I looked down at our hands, the warmth of her touch contrasting with the coldness settling in my heart. I need to figure out who I am now. The rain began to fall, gentle at first, then building into a steady rhythm. I closed my eyes, letting the sound wash over me, drowning out the chaos of my thoughts. Perhaps in this storm, I could find clarity. Perhaps the rain would cleanse me of the confusion and anger, revealing the path forward. In the distance, the echoes of laughter from my family drifted through the air, a reminder of the love that still surrounded me. And as I sat there, caught in the tension between the past and the unknown future, I realized that this was just the beginning. Who was I meant to become in this new reality? Shall I continue in the days following Grandma's funeral? I found myself, adrift in a sea of memories, each wave crashing over me with a force I didn't expect. I sat on the couch, scrolling through old family photos on my phone, searching for connections. Some hidden clue that would make sense of everything I'd just learned. Each image flickered to life, pulling me back to moments that felt both familiar and distant, like echoes of laughter and whispers of love. I gazed at a picture of my grandma, her smile radiant as she cradled a baby in her arms. I remember that day, the warmth of the summer sun spilling through the open window, the scent of freshly baked cookies wafting from the kitchen. But now, that image felt tainted, a bittersweet reminder of the family I thought I knew. What was I missing? I felt like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit, surrounded by a picture I couldn't fully grasp. How could I have been so blind? My heart ached as I flipped through more photos. A family barbecue, my first birthday, holidays spent together. I could almost hear the laughter, the stories shared around the table. But now, those moments felt hollow, the laughter echoing in a void left by the truth I had just uncovered. The family I had loved, the family I had trusted, was now a collection of strangers and secrets. I could feel the weight of my emotions pressing down on me, each photo igniting a new wave of questions. I needed answers. I needed to understand who I really was and where I truly belonged. Was it too late to find my roots? In the quiet of my living room, I felt a flicker of resolve. I would reach out to my biological family. The thought both thrilled and terrified me. What if they didn't want to meet me? What if I was just as much a stranger to them as they were to me? I sat down at my desk, the familiar wood grain beneath my fingers grounding me as I opened a blank document. The words poured out in a rush, fueled by longing and uncertainty. "Dear family," I began, my heart racing. "I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need you to know that I'm searching for connection, for answers." Each stroke of the keyboard felt like a step into uncharted territory, a brave leap into the unknown. I wrote about my childhood, the love I had known, the family gatherings that now felt tainted. I poured out my desire to understand my roots, my longing for belonging, a piece of my identity that had been lost in the shadows. "I want to know you," I typed, tears blurring my vision. "I want to understand where I come from." As I finished the letter, I hesitated. Should I send it? Could I bear the weight of what might come next? I took a deep breath, reminding myself that this journey wasn't just about uncovering the truth. It was about reclaiming my narrative in a world that felt increasingly alien. With a trembling hand, I hit send. The silence that followed felt deafening. I stared at my screen, willing it to light up with a response. But all I could hear was the sound of my heart racing. What if I never heard back? Days turned into weeks, and each passing moment felt like an eternity. I found myself obsessively checking my email, my heart sinking whenever I saw nothing new. My life had been turned upside down. And yet, here I was stuck in this limbo of uncertainty. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, I began to reach out to friends, trying to find solace in their familiarity. Each conversation felt like a lifeline, but the truth loomed over me like a storm cloud. I confided in my best friend, Sarah, who listened patiently as I poured out my heart. "I just don't know how to process all of this," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I thought I knew who I was, and now everything feels different." Sarah nodded, her expression filled with understanding. "You're allowed to feel lost," she said gently. "It's a huge change, and it's okay to mourn the life you thought you had." Her words resonated deeply, echoing in the corners of my mind. Mourning. That's exactly what it felt like, a loss of the identity I had clung to for so long. With each passing day, I found myself reflecting on my childhood, digging deeper into my memories. I recalled the way my parents would tell stories about their own childhoods, weaving a tapestry of their lives that now seemed incomplete. What had they left out? I began to question everything, replaying moments that I had once taken for granted. Had there been signs? Clues that pointed to my true origins? I found myself searching for answers in every shared glance, every laugh, every tear. The world felt expansive and yet so intimately familiar, like a landscape I had known all my life, but was now discovering anew. I walked through our neighborhood, the smells of blooming flowers and fresh-cut grass filling the air. Each step felt heavy with the weight of my uncertainty, but I pressed on, determined to find my footing in this new reality. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed, jolting me from my thoughts. My heart raced as I opened my email, a response. I could hardly breathe as I clicked it open, a mix of hope and fear coursing through me. "Dear, my name," it began. I read on, my eyes widening as the words blurred together. They were warm, inviting, and filled with a longing that echoed my own. I was met with the story of my biological family, a tale woven with love, loss, and the complexities of life. As I finished reading, I felt a rush of emotions: joy, confusion, and a deep-seated fear. This was the beginning of my journey toward belonging, but I was acutely aware of the challenges ahead. Would I be able to connect with them? Would they accept me? Each question spun around in my mind like a whirlwind. I had taken the first step, yet the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. Would this journey lead me to the connection I craved? Or would it deepen the void I felt within? I set the phone down, my heart racing. This was just the beginning, and I knew the quest for belonging would take me to places I had never imagined. What if the truth was more than I could handle? I sent the letter, and now I was left to grapple with the uncertainty of what would come next. Days turned into weeks, and each passing moment felt like a lifetime. My heart raced with anticipation, a whirlwind of hope and anxiety swirling within me. I confided in my friends, sharing the tumultuous emotions that had taken hold of me since that fateful day at Grandma's funeral. Their reactions varied widely, from comforting hugs to curious inquiries about my biological family. "I can't believe you didn't know," Lisa said, her brow furrowed in genuine concern. "Are you okay? I mean, how do you even process that?" "I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's like there's this whole part of me that's been missing, and I didn't even know it." John, always the practical one, chimed in. "You should look into it. What if they're amazing? What if they've been searching for you?" That thought sent a shiver down my spine. What if they were just waiting for a reason to reach out? But then came the fear. What if they didn't want me? What if I was just another piece in a puzzle they didn't want to complete? As the days crawled by, I often found myself staring at the wall in my room, lost in thought. The shadows of my past loomed large, and I felt an overwhelming sense of isolation. I was surrounded by friends, yet somehow felt more alone than ever. I could see the questions in their eyes, the curiosity bubbling just beneath the surface, and it made me question my relationships with them. Did they see me differently now? Did they think I was less worthy because I wasn't who I thought I was? One night, I sat on the edge of my bed, the dim light from my bedside lamp casting a warm glow in the otherwise dark room. Silence enveloped me, broken only by the sound of my own heartbeat. I picked up my phone, scrolling mindlessly through social media, seeking distraction. But all I found were reminders of joy, families, and connections that felt so foreign to me. Then, out of nowhere, the shrill ring of my phone sliced through the silence. I glanced at the screen, my heart leaping into my throat. It was an unknown number, but something in my gut told me I had to answer. "Hello?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Is this Emma?" A woman's voice came through, tentative yet strong. "Yes, this is Emma," I replied, my heart pounding. "Hi, I'm Clara. I think I'm your sister." The world tilted on its axis in that moment. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt a rush of emotions flood my system. Excitement, fear, hope, and dread, all tangled together in a chaotic blend. What? I managed to stammer, grappling with the reality of her words. "I know this is a lot to take in, but I've been searching for you. I want to meet," she said, her voice steadying as she spoke. I took a deep breath, trying to collect myself. Why now? Why all of a sudden? "Because I just found out too. I didn't know you existed until recently," she explained, and I could hear the edge of urgency in her tone. "I have so many questions, and I think you do too. Can we meet?" My heart raced as I weighed the possibilities. What if she didn't want me? What if I was just a stranger to her? The fear of rejection washed over me like a cold wave, but beneath that fear, there was a flicker of hope, a yearning for connection I had never fully acknowledged until now. "Okay, when?" I finally asked, my voice trembling. "How about this weekend?" Clara suggested. "There's a cafe I like. It's quiet, and I think it would be a good place for us to talk." "Sure," I said, my mind racing. This weekend. As I hung up the phone, a mix of emotions surged through me. I felt a thrill of anticipation that I couldn't shake off, but it was undercut by a deep-seated fear. I couldn't ignore the shadows of my past. What if this meeting only brought more pain? What if it shattered the fragile sense of identity I had been clinging to? I stared at my reflection in the mirror, searching for the strength I needed. I was on the brink of discovery, standing at the edge of a precipice. In that moment, I realized I would have to confront not just the truth about my biological family, but also the shadows of my own heart. What if this meeting could change everything? My mind was a flurry of thoughts as I prepared for the encounter. I needed to know who I was, where I came from, and what legacy I was meant to carry. The stakes felt impossibly high. This was more than just a meeting. It was a journey into the depths of my own identity. In the days leading up to our meeting, I found myself restless. I couldn't focus on anything else. The anticipation pulled me into a whirlwind of reflection, and I began to question everything I had known. My parents had given me a life filled with love. But what about the life I had been denied? The thought of my biological family loomed large, a specter haunting my thoughts. It was easy to get lost in the what-ifs. What if my sister and I didn't click? What if she had a completely different life, one I couldn't relate to? What if she had been raised in a world that was everything mine wasn't? I shared my anxieties with Lisa one evening as we sat on the porch under the stars. "What if she's nothing like me?" I mused, my voice tinged with uncertainty. What if I don't belong in her world? Emma, Lisa said softly, reaching out to squeeze my hand. You belong wherever you choose. You're not defined by your past. You're you, and that's enough. Her words resonated with me, but the weight of the unknown still pressed heavily on my chest. The night before my meeting with Clara, I could hardly sleep. I tossed and turned, my mind racing through every possible scenario. I imagined walking into that cafe, seeing her face for the first time, and feeling that instant connection, or the crushing disappointment of disconnection. When morning finally arrived, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. Maybe this was my chance, my opportunity to step into a new chapter of my life. I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that felt true to myself, but also reflected the seriousness of the moment. I wanted to show Clara that I was ready for whatever came next. As I made my way to the cafe, the world outside seemed to blur into a haze. The streets were alive with the hustle and bustle of life, but I felt separate from it all. This was my journey, and I had to embrace it fully. With each step, the anticipation bubbled within me, mingling with fear. I could see the cafe in the distance, its warm glow inviting, yet intimidating. I took a deep breath as I approached the entrance, my heart racing. This was it. I was about to step into the unknown, and I had no idea what awaited me on the other side. Would Clara be the sister I had always dreamed of? Or would she be a reminder of all that I had lost? I pushed open the door, the bell chiming above me, and stepped inside. The cafe buzzed with life, laughter spilling over from every corner, but I felt like I was in another world. My heart raced as I stepped inside, the scent of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around me like a warm blanket. I scanned the room, my stomach twisting in knots, searching for Clara. Would she look like me? Would she feel like home? And then I saw her. She was seated at a small table in the far corner, sunlight catching in her hair. A flood of recognition washed over me, despite never having met. Clara had my eyes, my smile. There was an undeniable connection. I took a deep breath, my legs feeling heavy as I walked toward her. "Hi," I said, my voice shaky. "Hi," she replied, her smile tentative but warm. "You must be—" "Yeah, I stuttered, suddenly overwhelmed. "I'm so glad we could meet." We sat there for a moment, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. The cafe felt alive, but we were in our own bubble. Navigating through the awkwardness of this first encounter, Clara fidgeted with her cup, her gaze flickering between me and the bustling patrons. "So, how have you been?" she asked, breaking the silence. I chuckled nervously. "Well, I just found out I was adopted at my grandma's funeral, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind." Clara's expression shifted, sympathy mixed with understanding. "That sounds really hard." "It is," I admitted, my heart racing. "I've always felt a little different, but now I'm questioning everything. It's like I'm piecing together a puzzle that's been missing for so long." "Yeah, I get that." She leaned in, her eyes intent. "I've been on my own journey too. It's not easy." As we talked, the initial awkwardness faded, replaced by something deeper. Clara shared snippets of her life, her struggles, and the challenges she faced. I listened intently, feeling a connection that was both comforting and unsettling. The more she spoke, the more I realized how similar our lives had been. Two women shaped by circumstances beyond our control. "I've always felt like I was living in someone else's story," I confessed, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Like I was meant for something different, but I didn't know what. Clara nodded, her expression empathetic. "I think we all have that feeling, especially when we're searching for who we are. It's like we're carrying these invisible weights. Exactly, I exclaimed, my heart racing as I found common ground with her. I felt so abandoned, so confused. It's like finding out my life has been a lie. I understand, she said gently. I was raised in foster care, so I've spent my life searching for my own identity too. It can feel like you're constantly trying to catch up with everyone else. The conversation flowed more easily now, and I was surprised at how much I wanted to share. I spoke about my parents, the love they gave me, the life I thought I knew, but beneath it all lingered the fear of losing them, of unraveling the carefully woven fabric of my existence. Clara listened intently, her eyes never leaving mine. "You're not alone in this," she said softly. "I spent years feeling abandoned and lost, but I've learned that it's okay to feel that way. It's part of our journey." I looked down, tracing the rim of my coffee cup with my finger. "It's just scary. What if this changes everything? What if I find out things I'm not ready for?" "Change is terrifying," Clara replied, her voice steady. "But it can also lead to growth. We can't control our past, but we can shape our future. You have to decide what that looks like for you." Her words resonated deeply, stirring something within me. I could feel the tension in my chest beginning to loosen. I was no longer just a girl grappling with abandonment. I was a woman on a path to understanding who I really was. "I want to believe that," I said quietly. "But it's hard to let go of the pain." "It is," Clara agreed. "But healing comes from sharing our stories, connecting with others who understand our struggles. That's how we create a legacy of our own." I smiled, the warmth of her words wrapping around me, like a comforting embrace. "You're right. I've never thought about it that way. I've always been so focused on my own hurt that I forgot the power of connection. Connection is everything," Clara said, her eyes shining with sincerity. "It's what brought us here today. Maybe this meeting is the start of something beautiful for both of us." A wave of hope surged through me at the thought. For the first time since my world had been turned upside down, I felt a flicker of something resembling optimism. Perhaps this encounter was more than just a meeting. It could be the beginning of a new chapter, a chance to rewrite my story alongside someone who understood. "Can I ask you something?" I ventured, my heart pounding with the vulnerability of the moment. "Of course," Clara replied, leaning forward. "What do you think I should do next? How do I navigate this new reality?" She paused, considering her words carefully. "Take your time. There's no rush to uncover everything all at once. Be gentle with yourself. And remember, every step you take is part of your journey, whether it's painful or joyful." I absorbed her advice, letting it sink in. There was wisdom in her words, a reminder that I didn't have to face this alone. "Thank you, Clara. I really appreciate this." As we continued to talk, the cafe faded into the background. The world around us blurred, and all that mattered was our connection. Two women forging a bond through shared experiences and understanding. I could feel the weight of my past slowly lifting, replaced by the promise of something new. The conversation flowed like a river, each word carving out space for healing. We laughed, we shared, and we began to understand that our stories were intertwined in ways we had yet to discover. The cafe became our sanctuary, a safe haven where we could explore the complexities of our lives without fear of judgment. As the sun began to set outside, casting a warm glow through the windows, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This meeting wasn't just an encounter. It was a turning point, an opportunity to embrace my past while stepping boldly into my future. "Do you think?" I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the hope blossoming within me. "Do you think we could stay in touch? I'd love to keep sharing our stories." Clara smiled, And in that moment, I knew we were embarking on a journey together. One that would lead us both to new understandings of ourselves and the legacies we were meant to create. "Absolutely," she said, her voice filled with warmth. "I'd love that." As we exchanged numbers, I felt a surge of gratitude. This wasn't just a meeting. It was a connection that could change everything. I walked out of the cafe that day with a renewed sense of purpose. The future was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it head-on. Armed with the knowledge that I was no longer alone, I sat across from Clara at the small, worn table in her kitchen, the sunlight filtering through the lace curtains, creating a patchwork of light and shadow. We had spent countless hours talking, but today felt different. I could sense the weight of what was about to be revealed, the truths that had been tucked away for far too long. As I sipped my tea, my fingers traced the delicate porcelain, grounding me in the moment. "Are you ready?" Clara asked, her voice steady but soft. I nodded, feeling a mix of anticipation and dread. The walls of this house held stories of love, loss, and the complicated web of our shared heritage. "I've been digging into our family history," she continued, her eyes locking onto mine. "There's so much more to our past than we realized. Your birth mother. She had to make impossible choices." My heart raced. I had spent years feeling like a puzzle with missing pieces, and suddenly, those pieces were within reach. "What do you mean?" Clara leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "She loved you, more than anything, but life threw her challenges that were beyond her control." Each word felt heavy, like stones sinking into my soul. I wanted to feel anger towards her, to blame her for the years of uncertainty. But as Clara spoke, I found myself grappling with something more profound: empathy, understanding. "She was young," Clara continued, tears glistening in her eyes. "She struggled with addiction and poverty. It was a battle every single day for her." I felt an ache in my chest, as if the world had shifted under my feet. "So, she chose to give me up?" "Yes," Clara said, her voice unwavering. "She wanted you to have a better life, one she couldn't provide. It was an act of love, not neglect." My mind raced, images of my adoptive parents flooding my thoughts, how they had nurtured me, encouraged me, and filled my life with warmth. I had always viewed my adoption as a void, but now I was beginning to see it as a bridge connecting two worlds. As Clara shared more about my biological family, stories of courage and heartbreak emerged. My birth parents had fought against a tide of circumstances that would have overwhelmed anyone. "They were flawed, just like all of us," Clara said softly, "but they loved you fiercely." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. The realization washed over me like a tide. My anger began to dissolve into a profound sense of empathy. My family, both biological and adoptive, were simply human, navigating their own struggles, making choices that reflected their circumstances. "Can I meet her?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. The thought both terrified and excited me. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "I think that's a good idea, but it has to be on your terms. You control this journey." The following days blurred together, each one marked by revelations that chipped away at my preconceived notions. I learned about my birth mother's past, how she had fought against the demons of addiction, how her childhood experiences shaped her into a survivor. I felt a kinship with her, as if her struggles echoed my own battles with self-identity and belonging. Clara introduced me to other family members, cousins, aunts, and uncles, each with their own stories, each carrying the weight of their individual struggles. I listened, absorbing their narratives like a sponge, realizing that every person was a product of their past, shaped by their choices and the circumstances that surrounded them. In one heart-wrenching conversation with an aunt, I learned about the day my birth mother made the decision to place me for adoption. She cried for days, my aunt said, her voice trembling with emotion. But she believed it was what was best for you. I felt a knot form in my throat. The pain of that decision resonated through generations, rippling across lives intertwined by love and sacrifice. As I met my biological family, I was struck by their similarities to me. The way we laughed, the quirks in our gestures, the shared expressions that felt like echoes of my own childhood. Each encounter was a step toward healing, a way to stitch together the fabric of my identity. But with every new revelation, I found myself wrestling with my sense of self. Who was I now? I wondered. Was I the girl who had grown up in a loving home? Or was I the child of a woman who had fought against her own demons? Evenings turned into nights filled with introspection. I would sit on the porch, staring at the stars, reflecting on my upbringing. My parents had instilled values in me: kindness, compassion, resilience. I remembered the love that enveloped me, the endless support they had given me, and how that love had shaped me into who I was today. Yet I felt fragmented, like a tapestry with different threads that didn't quite match. I was learning about my roots, and with each new thread, I felt the urge to weave them into a coherent narrative, a narrative that would honor both families. "Clara," I said one day, my voice trembling with uncertainty. "How do I reconcile all of this? How do I honor both my families?" She reached across the table, her hand warm and reassuring. "You honor them by being true to yourself. Embrace every part of your story, even the difficult parts. They all belong to you." Her words resonated deeply. I was more than the sum of my experiences. I was a mosaic of love and hardship, hope and despair. I began to see the beautiful complexity of my existence, the intertwining of two lives that had both led to my own. Every day was a new chapter, filled with moments of joy and sorrow as I navigated this new terrain. I felt the weight of my identity shifting, expanding to encompass all that I was learning. I started reaching out to my birth mother, tentatively at first, unsure of what to say or how to bridge that gap. "Dear Mom," I wrote in a letter that took me hours to draft. "I want you to know I'm here. I want to understand you, to know your story." As I folded the letter, my heart raced. I was extending a hand across a chasm, hoping for connection, hoping for understanding. I was ready to embrace whatever came next. Through Clara and my newfound family, I began to weave together the threads of my past and present. The journey wasn't easy. It demanded vulnerability and courage. But with each step, I felt a sense of empowerment, as if I was reclaiming my story. I was a child of two families, a blend of love and choices made in the face of adversity. And as I began to understand that, I felt a shift within me, a burgeoning sense of belonging that I had longed for all my life. As the days passed, I felt an unexpected warmth wrapping around me, a comfort that slowly replaced the uncertainty I had carried for so long. Gathering with my biological family became a little less surreal and a lot more familiar. Moments shared over laughter and stories of the past began to weave a new tapestry within me, one that was vibrant, yet hauntingly bittersweet. I could feel the legacy of their lives flowing through me, connecting threads of history I never knew existed. Yet even as I embraced this newfound belonging, a shadow lingered, an unshakable sense of loss for the life I thought I understood. My adoptive parents had noticed the changes in me. I was more open, perhaps reflective, but the air between us was thick with unspoken words. I could sense their apprehension, a fear born of my shifting loyalties. One evening, As the sun dipped low and cast a warm glow through our living room window, I gathered the courage to confront them. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. They exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them before nodding. As we settled into our usual spots, my mom on the edge of the couch, my dad leaning back with his arms crossed, I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on us. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About my family. Both families," I started, searching for the right words. "And I just need to share how I feel." My mom looked at me, her eyes wide with concern, as if bracing for a storm. "We're here for you," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "I know you are," I replied, my heart racing. "But it feels like I'm living in two worlds. With my biological family, I feel this sense of connection. But when I'm here, I often feel like an outsider." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of our shared fears. My dad shifted uncomfortably, his fingers tapping nervously against his knee. "We didn't want you to feel that way," he finally said, his voice low. We thought you would always feel at home with us." "I do love you both," I quickly interjected, feeling the need to reassure them. "You've given me so much, and I'm grateful. But I can't ignore this part of me that's waking up, this part that longs to know the truth of where I came from." My mom's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "We were scared too. When you found out, we worried you might want to leave us." Her words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. "But I don't want to leave," I said, feeling the warmth of tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "I just want to understand. I want to embrace both sides of who I am." My dad uncrossed his arms, leaning forward, his expression softening. "We've always tried to protect you, to give you a stable life. But we realize now that it's okay to let you explore this part of your identity. We're scared of losing you, but we don't want to hold you back either." In that moment, I could see the love shining through their fear, a reflection of my own struggles. The walls we had built around our hearts began to crumble, replaced by a shared understanding. I took a deep breath, feeling the tension ease between us. "I want us to find a way to navigate this together," I said, my voice steadier now. "I don't want to choose one family over the other. I want both of you in my life." My mom reached out, taking my hand in hers, her grip firm yet reassuring. "We can do that," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "We'll figure this out, step by step." As I looked into their eyes, I felt a surge of love that transcended the boundaries of family. It was acknowledgement of my past and acceptance of my present. I realized that love can take many forms, and it doesn't diminish the love I've received from my adoptive parents. Instead, it expands it. That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on our conversation. I had always thought of my identity as a single thread, but now I understood that it was a tapestry, woven from both my biological and adoptive families. Each thread held its own significance, and together, they created a picture that was uniquely mine. My past was not something to be ashamed of. It was a part of who I was becoming. The next day, I attended a gathering with my biological family. The air was filled with the aroma of home-cooked meals, laughter bounced off the walls, and stories were shared like cherished heirlooms. I felt a sense of belonging wrap around me, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of sadness that lingered. As we sat around the table, I listened to tales of my biological parents, stories that painted a picture of lives lived and paths taken. I felt a pang of longing, wishing I could have known them, understood their choices, and felt their love. But I also felt gratitude for the life my adoptive parents had given me. It was a delicate balance, one that often left me feeling emotionally raw. Later that evening, I found myself sitting with my biological grandmother, a woman whose eyes sparkled with wisdom and warmth. She reached for my hand, her grip gentle, yet firm. "You know, dear," she began, her voice soft. "Family is not just about blood. It's about connection, love, and the bonds we choose to nurture." Her words resonated deeply, echoing the sentiments I had shared with my adoptive parents. "I've been learning that," I admitted, my voice steady. "I feel like I'm on a journey to embrace all of who I am." "Good," she smiled, her eyes bright. "Embrace it fully. Your past doesn't define you, but it does shape you. Remember, you carry the love of both families within you." As I left that gathering, I felt a sense of peace settling within me. I was beginning to understand that I didn't have to choose. I could embrace both sides of my identity, allowing my past to enrich my present while honoring the love I had received. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. The journey ahead would be complex, filled with moments of joy and sadness, but I was ready to face it. With every step, I was learning to weave my own narrative, one that honored my past while celebrating the love that had shaped me. I stood before the gravestone, the weight of my heart pressing heavily against my ribs. It was a chilly morning, the kind that made the air feel sharp and electric, as if the world was whispering secrets just out of reach. I had come back to my grandmother's resting place. But this time, it wasn't just for mourning. I had a purpose, a drive that propelled me forward. The flowers I held were vibrant against the dullness of the granite. I chose these colors carefully, remembering how she used to say that flowers were like memories, bright and beautiful but delicate, needing care to flourish. Kneeling down, I laid them gently at her headstone, a small token of gratitude for the love she had so freely given me during my life. "Thank you for everything," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. With each word, I felt a wave of warmth wash over me, as if her spirit was wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. The memories flooded back. Her laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of family, the stories that lived in her every word. I realized today that these were not just memories. They were a legacy, a thread connecting me to both my past and my future. I rose from the ground, feeling the cool breeze against my skin, reminding me that I was still here, still alive. It was time to honor her in a way that transcended mere remembrance. My journey had become about more than just understanding my adoption. It was about weaving the legacies of both my adoptive and biological families into a tapestry that was uniquely mine. As I walked away from the grave, I made a vow, a promise to carry forward my grandmother's lessons and values. I envisioned a family scrapbook, a living document that would celebrate who I am, encompassing both sides of my heritage. The idea felt cathartic, almost like a balm for my soul. I could already see the pages filled with photos, stories, and letters, each piece contributing to the narrative of my life. But how do I start? I pondered. I needed to reach out to my biological family, to invite them into this project, to be part of something larger than ourselves. I remembered the awkwardness of our first meeting, the uncertainty that hung in the air. Yet, there was also a spark of connection, a chance to build something new. Gathering my courage, I began to draft a message. "Hi, everyone. I'm working on a family scrapbook that honors both sides of my heritage. I would love for you to contribute. Photos, stories, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I believe it could be a beautiful way to connect and understand one another." Each word felt like a step into the unknown, but it was a step I needed to take. When the replies started to come in, I felt a rush of excitement. Each message carried a piece of their world, snippets of their lives, and I was eager to learn. One of my biological sisters shared a photo of our mother from years ago, radiating joy at a family picnic. Another cousin sent a letter detailing our family's history, rich with tales of resilience and strength. With every contribution, I felt the gaps in my identity begin to fill, like pieces of a puzzle coming together. As the day of our gathering approached, anticipation bubbled inside me. I envisioned the room where we would share our stories, its walls adorned with photographs, laughter mingling with the scent of fresh coffee. I wanted to create a space where we could bond over shared experiences, where our differences could fade into the background and our connections could take center stage. When we finally came together, it was as if the universe had aligned. I watched as my biological family exchanged stories, their voices rising and falling like a symphony. I shared my own journey, my feelings of displacement, and the longing I had felt for so long. As I spoke, I saw nods of understanding, eyes wide with empathy. This was more than just a conversation. It was a healing moment for all of us. "Your grandma sounds like an incredible woman," one of my biological sisters said, her voice warm and inviting. "I can see where you get your strength." Those words wrapped around me like a soft blanket, comforting and affirming. It was a reminder that my grandmother's legacy lived on through me, through the love I was now sharing with my newfound family. With each story shared, I felt the layers of my identity becoming more complex, yet beautifully cohesive. The tales of my adoptive family intertwined with those of my biological family, creating a rich narrative tapestry. I realized that I was not just a product of one lineage. I was the embodiment of two worlds, each adding depth and color to the person I had become. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue through the windows, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I looked around at the faces surrounding me, each one a new thread in my ever-expanding tapestry. I had discovered that my past, with all its heartache and joy, was something I could embrace, not shun. I could honor both my adoptive and biological families, celebrating the love and lessons they each provided. "I want to continue this journey," I said, my voice steady. "Let's keep sharing our stories, not just for the scrapbook, but for our futures. Our legacies don't end here. They evolve, just like we do." The room erupted in agreement, and in that moment, I felt a profound sense of belonging wash over me. I wasn't just piecing together a family scrapbook. I was building a bridge between my worlds, one that would last for generations to come. Walking away from that gathering, with the scrapbook in hand, I knew my journey was far from over. There were still stories to tell, lessons to learn, and connections to strengthen. But for the first time, I felt whole. I understood that my identity was not a burden to carry, but a legacy to honor, a memory to cherish, and a story to unfold. One that was beautifully, unequivocally mine. I stood in the middle of my living room, surrounded by an array of mismatched chairs and tables, each one a testament to the different families that had shaped me. The air was thick with anticipation, a blend of excitement and apprehension swirling around me. I had spent weeks preparing for this gathering, meticulously crafting a scrapbook that encapsulated my journey, one that intertwined my adoptive and biological families in ways I never thought possible. As the doorbell rang, I felt a jolt of nerves. My heart raced, each beat echoing the duality of my existence. Would they see each other as family or remain strangers? I opened the door to reveal my adoptive parents, their smiles warm yet tinged with uncertainty. They stepped inside, glancing around at the decorations, the photos on the walls. Each image told a story, but today, the real stories would unfold in the room. "Everything looks great, honey," my mom said, her voice brightening the mood slightly, but her eyes betrayed her worry. "Thanks, Mom," I replied, forcing a smile. as I ushered them further inside. As more guests arrived, my biological family trickling in behind my adoptive parents, the tension in the air became palpable. I could see my birth mother, standing awkwardly by the punch bowl, avoiding eye contact, with my adoptive dad. My father, usually the life of the party, stood by the fireplace, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, an expression of deep contemplation on his face. The room buzzed with nervous chatter, whispers of curiosity mixed with the uncertainty of the day. It was as if we were all players in a delicate dance, unsure of the steps. I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the legacy of my past mingling with the hope for a new beginning. Can you believe this? I thought to myself. 2 families, 1 daughter. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of the purpose behind this gathering. I wanted to celebrate the connections that had been forged through love, loss, and discovery. As I began to mingle, I overheard snippets of conversation that echoed my own feelings. "I never thought this day would come," a voice said, causing my heart to flutter. I could only imagine the stories they each held, the complexities of their emotions. Suddenly, I found myself standing next to my biological sister, a woman I had only recently met. She looked at me with wide eyes, full of curiosity and a hint of fear. "So, do you think they'll get along?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I hope so," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I believe they can. They just need to understand each other." As we shared a moment of connection, I realized this gathering was more than just a celebration. It was a healing space, an opportunity for everyone to confront their past and embrace the present. I paused, taking in the sight of my 2 families mingling, laughter emerging from unexpected corners. My adoptive mother was deep in conversation with my birth mother, their voices animated as they exchanged stories about me. I could see old wounds starting to heal, like cracks in a vase that were slowly being mended. The laughter grew louder, and I felt the tension begin to dissipate, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. I had watched as my adoptive father and my biological brother found common ground over their shared love for fishing, their laughter resonating like music in the air. It was a melody I had longed to hear, one that encompassed all parts of my life. As the afternoon wore on, I gathered everyone in the living room for a moment of reflection. I stood on a chair, my heart pounding in my chest. "Thank you all for being here today," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "I know this is an unusual situation, but it's one that has made me who I am. Each of you has played a role in my life, and I want to acknowledge that." I glanced around at the faces, some smiling, some wary, all of them curious. I've spent so long trying to reconcile my past with my present. Today is about healing and understanding. We all come from different paths, but we share a common bond. We are family. A soft murmur passed through the crowd, and I could see my birth mother's eyes glistening with unshed tears. My adoptive mother reached out, squeezing my hand, and I felt a surge of love enveloping me. As I continued, I shared anecdotes from my scrapbook, weaving a tapestry of memories that connected everyone in the room. I remember the first time my adoptive dad taught me how to ride a bike. I fell countless times, but he always encouraged me to get back up. Laughter erupted, and I turned to see my adoptive dad beaming with pride. And then there was the moment my biological mother first held me. I can only imagine the love and hope in her heart. I felt the weight of the room shift. It was as if we were all beginning to understand the complexities of love and family, how they could coexist beautifully, despite the challenges life had thrown at us. "I am grateful for both families," I said, my voice growing stronger. "Each of you has given me a piece of my identity, a reason to celebrate who I am and where I come from." As I finished my speech, I noticed the smiles around the room, the understanding that was blossoming in the air. I felt a deep sense of peace wash over me. one that told me I was forging a new path, one that honored my entire story. The gathering continued, and I moved between conversations, feeling the warmth of newfound connections. I saw my families share stories, laughter echoing, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to choose between them. They were all a part of me, and together, we were beginning to heal. I took a moment to step outside, the sun casting a warm glow over the backyard, the scent of blooming flowers filling the air. I closed my eyes, letting the moment wash over me. I had hoped for a connection, and now I could see it blossoming before my eyes. As I opened my eyes, I saw my sister and my brother laughing together, and my heart swelled with hope. This was just the beginning. I could feel the future stretching out before me, filled with possibilities. I had brought my families together, and together, we were rewriting our stories. With a smile on my face, I returned to the gathering, ready to embrace the next chapter of my life. I sat in the cafe, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sweet aroma of pastries, but the warmth of the atmosphere felt distant. The walls were adorned with photographs of families and friends, moments captured in time that felt so far removed from my own reality. I could feel my heart pounding, each thump echoing the questions swirling in my mind. What would I say? How? Would she respond? It was time to confront my past, the tangled web of emotions that had been woven since the day I found out I was adopted at my grandma's funeral. The air felt heavy with unspoken words as I waited. When she finally walked in, I recognized her immediately. My birth mother. She looked older than I had imagined, weariness etched into the lines of her face. The moment our eyes met, a wave of emotions crashed over me. Anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. We both took our seats. A table for two in a crowded cafe that felt oddly like a universe unto itself. For a moment, silence enveloped us, a cocoon filled with anticipation and hesitation. I could sense her nervousness, just as I felt my own. I wanted to scream, to cry, to unleash the confusion that had been building inside me since that fateful day. Instead, I took a deep breath and broke the silence. I don't even know where to start, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked down at her hands, fingers trembling slightly. I never wanted to hurt you, she replied, her voice thick with emotion. I wanted you to have a better life. Her words hung in the air, heavy and fraught with meaning. I struggled to process them. A better life. By abandoning me? My heart raced as the anger bubbled to the surface. You left me. I spent my whole life wondering why. I didn't want to leave you, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I was young, scared, and alone. I thought if I gave you up, you'd have a chance at something I couldn't provide. I thought it was love. I felt a pang of compassion pierce through my anger. Her pain was palpable, and I recognized the truth in her words. But it hurt. It still hurts. I spent years feeling like I didn't belong, like I was incomplete. I thought you didn't want me. I understand, she said, her voice trembling. I've carried that guilt with me every day. You have no idea how much I've thought about you, how much I love you from afar. The silence that followed was thick, a moment where we both seemed to confront our shared grief. I looked away, the cafe ambiance fading into the background as I wrestled with my emotions. This was the moment I had longed for, yet dreaded. The realization that her choice, while painful, came from a place of love. Why didn't you ever try to find me? I asked, my tone softer now, the edge of my anger dulling. She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I was afraid. Afraid of what you would think of me. Afraid of opening old wounds. I thought it was best for you to live, Your life without me intruding. I felt a knot in my throat, the weight of her words pressing down on me. But I needed to know. I needed to understand who I was. I needed to know where I came from. Her gaze softened and I could see the regret in her eyes. I never doubted that. I just didn't know how to approach you. I thought you were happy. Happy? I scoffed, the bitterness creeping back in. I've spent years feeling lost, feeling like a puzzle with missing pieces. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I wish I could take back the pain I caused you. For a moment, we both sat there, two women connected by blood yet separated by choices. I could feel the tears welling in my eyes, but I blinked them away, unwilling to let my vulnerability show. I just wanted to know if you ever thought about me, I stated, my voice steadier now. Did you ever wonder what I was like? Did you care? Yes, she replied, her voice a whisper. Every day. I kept your baby blanket, you know. It's still in a box under my bed. I thought about you every birthday, every holiday. I prayed for you. Her admission broke something inside me. I hadn't expected this. The idea that she had carried me with her, even in her absence, stirred something deep within. You loved me? More than anything, she said, her eyes filled with sincerity. I know it may not mean much now, but I did what I thought was best for you. I never stopped loving you. We sat in silence again, the gravity of her words wrapping around us like a warm blanket. I reached for my coffee, the coldness of the cup a reminder of the world outside. Yet I couldn't break the connection we had forged, fragile but real. I guess I just wanted to feel like I mattered, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. You matter more than you know, she replied. Your life, your happiness, it's everything to me. I want you to know that I'm proud of you, even from a distance. I looked into her eyes, searching for the truth behind her words. I saw the pain, the love, the regret, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of understanding. Maybe it's time we both let go of the past, I suggested, my heart racing at the idea. I want to know you. I want to understand everything. Her face lit up with a tentative smile. I'd like that. I want to make it right, if you'll let me. The promise of a new beginning hung in the air between us, a fragile thread that needed nurturing. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I had come seeking answers, but I found something deeper, an opportunity for healing, for connection, and for love. As we began to talk, the conversation flowed with an ease that surprised both of us. With each shared story, each laugh and each tear, the weight of the world felt just a little lighter. I realized that this was not just about confronting my past, but about transforming it. In that little cafe, amid the noise of life continuing around us, I understood that healing could begin, not just for me, but for her as well. And as the sun dipped lower in the sky outside, casting a warm glow through the window, I felt a sense of closure I didn't know I needed. I stood at the crossroads of my life, a delicate balance between two families that had shaped who I was. The loss of my grandmother had ripped through me like a wound, but it also opened a door I never knew existed. With each passing day since that fateful funeral, I found myself embracing my dual identity, weaving together the strands of my past and present. I began to attend events with my biological family, immersing myself in their traditions and stories. At first, it felt foreign, like stepping into a painting I didn't quite belong to. Yet, as I listened to their laughter and shared meals, I began to feel the warmth of connection. We were united by blood, but also by a longing for understanding that transcended mere genetics. I cherished the moments when I could share a joke with my biological cousins, or when my aunt would pull me aside to tell me tales of my birth mother, her voice filled with a mix of pride and sorrow. Balancing this newfound relationship with my adoptive family was a delicate act. I didn't want to hurt them or diminish the love they had given me. They had been my everything, and I didn't want to betray that. I chose to involve them in my journey, sharing my experiences and introducing them to my biological family. I remember the first family dinner we had together, all of us squeezed around the table, the air thick with anticipation. I could see the confusion in my adoptive parents' eyes, but also a flicker of understanding. It was a step toward healing, for all of us. I took to social media to document my journey, feeling compelled to share my story. I wanted to connect with others who might be facing similar challenges. I started posting about my experiences, the joy, the heartache, and the beauty of embracing both sides of my identity. The response was overwhelming. Strangers reached out, sharing their own stories of adoption, identity crises, and the search for belonging. "Thank you for sharing," one message read. I thought I was the only one struggling like this. Each comment felt like a warm embrace, a reminder that I was not alone in this complex web of family ties. I realized that family is not defined by blood alone. It's forged through love, understanding, and the shared experiences that bind us together. As I continued to navigate this new landscape, I found myself drawn to advocacy work. I started volunteering with organizations that promote adoption, awareness, speaking at events to share my story. I wanted to highlight the importance of compassion and understanding in adoption narratives. It was vital to me that others understood that the journey toward embracing one's identity is often fraught with challenges, but ultimately leads to a deeper understanding of self and others. Adoption isn't a story of loss, I would say, during my talks, but one of love and hope. It's about finding your place in the world, no matter how fragmented it may seem. I often thought about my grandmother as I spoke. She had always been my anchor, the one who taught me about resilience and the power of love. I felt her spirit with me, guiding me as I stepped into this new chapter of my life. I knew she would be proud of my willingness to embrace both halves of my identity. Through all of this, I discovered the importance of legacy and memory. I began collecting stories from both sides of my family, piecing together a narrative that honored both my adoptive and biological roots. I created a scrapbook filled with photographs, letters, and mementos that told the story of who I was becoming. It became a sacred space where I could reflect on my journey and celebrate the love that surrounded me. The tension between my two worlds was ever present, but I learned to navigate it with grace. I stopped viewing my identity as a battleground, and instead embraced it as a tapestry, woven from diverse experiences. I found strength in the richness of my story, knowing that each thread contributed to the person I was becoming. With every step I took, I felt empowered. I was no longer just a girl with a complicated past. I was a woman forging her own path, determined to make a difference in the world. I realized that my story, with all its complexities, could inspire others who felt lost in their own narratives, began to see my life as a platform for change. Adoption awareness became my mission, and I sought to shed light on the myriad emotions involved in the adoption process. I wanted to create a space where people could share their experiences without fear of judgment. "Let's talk about it," I urged during my talks. "Let's open the dialogue around adoption, so we can understand the beauty and challenges that come with it." The support I received was a testament to the power of community. I connected with individuals and families who understood firsthand the intricate dance of adoption, and together we began to foster a culture of empathy and understanding. I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself, and it was exhilarating. Every time I shared my story, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The act of speaking my truth became a form of therapy, a way to honor both sides of my identity. I no longer felt split between two families. I felt whole, enriched by the love and lessons from both. Embracing my identity became a journey of self-discovery, and I was determined to take others along for the ride. I wanted to inspire hope in those who felt lost, to remind them that it's okay to embrace the complexities of who they are. As I navigated this intricate landscape, I learned that our identities are not fixed. They are fluid, evolving with each experience and connection. I no longer saw my past as a source of pain, but rather as the foundation upon which I was building my future. I stood firm in my belief that love knows no boundaries. It transcends bloodlines, cultures, and histories. I began to advocate for social justice in the realm of adoption, pushing for policies that recognize the importance of preserving family ties, regardless of their nature. With each step forward, I felt more empowered to share my truth, knowing that my voice could spark change. I wanted to be a beacon for those who felt like they didn't belong, a reminder that they are worthy of love and acceptance. As I reflected on this journey, I marveled at how far I had come. I was no longer the girl who discovered her adoption at a funeral. I was a woman embracing her identity, advocating for others, and creating a legacy of love and understanding. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my journey settle comfortably on my shoulders. I was ready to share my story with the world, knowing that it might inspire others to embrace their own complexities. I was ready to show them that our identities, no matter how tangled, can be a source of strength and beauty. I often find myself reflecting on how my journey has shaped not just who I am, but also what I stand for. It was at my grandmother's funeral that the truth about my adoption shattered my world and ignited a fire within me. In that moment of loss, I felt compelled to reclaim my voice, to advocate for those like me who have been swept aside in conversations about adoption. I began reaching out to local organizations committed to fostering understanding and compassion within the adoption community. Each panel discussion and workshop I participated in became a stepping stone, pushing me deeper into the complexities of adoption. I listened to others share their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. It was in these moments that I found solace, realizing I wasn't alone. We formed a support group, a sanctuary where vulnerability was met with empathy. The camaraderie was a balm for my heart, and I began to understand the power of shared experiences. With every meeting, I grew more confident. I started to pen articles and blogs, pouring my thoughts onto the page. I wrote about the nuances of the adoption process, the importance of open communication, and the need for empathy. It felt liberating to articulate feelings I had long buried, and to see my words resonate with others. I wanted to ensure that those navigating similar paths felt seen and heard. In my writing, I explored the legacy of adoption, the memories that shaped us, and the transformation that comes from embracing our stories. I discovered that sharing my truth not only helped me heal, but also sparked conversations that could lead to change. What was your experience like? I would often ask others in our support group. Their answers varied. Some spoke of joy, others of pain. But each response reinforced my belief in the power of dialogue. It was clear that the adoption narrative was multifaceted, and I was determined to bring light to every corner of it. As I attended more events, I found myself mingling with advocates who had dedicated their lives to social justice. Each encounter ignited a new passion within me. I began to feel the weight of responsibility. My voice could contribute to a larger movement. I listened to seasoned speakers discuss policies that affected families and children in the adoption system. I realized how intertwined our personal struggles were with broader societal issues. One day, during a particularly engaging workshop, a woman stood up and shared her story. I found my birth mother after years of searching, but it left me more confused than ever, she said, her voice trembling. I thought I would find closure, but instead, I discovered a whole new set of questions. Her honesty struck a chord with everyone in the room. I could see nods of understanding from faces that reflected my own unspoken fears. It was in that moment I made a silent vow to continue amplifying these voices. Each narrative was a thread in a larger tapestry, weaving together the complexities of identity, belonging, and love. As we wrapped up the workshop, I approached her. "Your story resonates with me," I said. "I'm also navigating this journey, and I'd love to connect." She smiled, grateful for the understanding. We exchanged contact information, and just like that, a new friendship began to blossom amidst our shared experiences. I remember standing outside the venue, the sun setting behind me, casting a warm glow that felt almost symbolic. In that moment, I felt a sense of purpose blooming within me. I was becoming part of something bigger, a movement towards compassion and understanding in the adoption community. I wanted to be a bridge for those who felt lost in their journeys, just as I had been. As I continued to write, I found clarity in my thoughts. I reflected on my own adoption and the feelings of displacement that often accompanied it. I wrote about the importance of open communication, not just between adoptees and their families, but also within the community at large. We are more than our stories, I often reminded myself while typing late into the night. Our experiences shape us, but they don't define us. This mantra became my guiding light, pushing me to share more and to dig deeper into the discussions surrounding adoption. One afternoon, I sat in a cozy cafe, sipping my coffee as I worked on an article about the need for empathy in adoption. I wrote about how often the narratives surrounding adoptees are dominated by the perspectives of birth parents and adoptive families, leaving the voices of adoptees themselves unheard. I felt a surge of energy as I crafted my arguments, articulating what I wished I had heard growing up. I typed furiously, weaving in anecdotes from my own life and those of others I had met. The cafe buzzed with chatter, but I was enveloped in my own world. I felt a sense of urgency to get this right, to capture the essence of what it meant to be an adoptee in today's society. As I shared my drafts with my support group, the conversations deepened. Feedback poured in, and I was met with encouragement and constructive criticism alike. "Your voice matters," one member reminded me. "You're shining a light on a subject that needs it." Those simple words propelled me forward. I began to envision workshops where we could invite others to share their stories, to create a safe space for dialogue. We could host panels that featured adoptees, birth parents, and adoptive families, enriching discussions about the complexities of adoption. "Let's do this," I proposed during one of our meetings. "We can create a platform that amplifies our voices and fosters understanding among all parties involved." The room erupted in agreement. We brainstormed ideas, tapping into each other's strengths. Some had experience in organizing events, while others were skilled in outreach and communication. Together, we could make a difference. With each passing day, I felt my confidence grow. I was no longer just a girl with a story. I was becoming a leader, an advocate for change. I began reaching out to local organizations, expressing my desire to collaborate. I wanted to create a series of events that would not only educate, but also empower those navigating the complexities of adoption. "We need to break the silence," I emphasized during our planning sessions. "We can't let fear keep us from sharing our truths." The response was overwhelming. Support poured in from unexpected places. Local businesses offered sponsorship, and community leaders expressed their willingness to participate. It felt like our small group was part of something monumental, a movement that could reshape the narrative around adoption. As we approached our first event, excitement mingled with nerves. I stood in front of the mirror, rehearsing my speech. "This is your moment," I whispered to myself, trying to calm the butterflies. I reminded myself of the countless voices that had come before me, the stories that had fueled my passion on. The day of the event, I felt a rush of adrenaline as I stepped onto the stage. The audience was filled with familiar faces, friends, supporters, and fellow advocates. I looked out at the sea of people, all eager to engage in this conversation. "Thank you for being here," I began, my voice steady. "Today isn't just about sharing our stories. It's about creating a community that understands and uplifts those affected by adoption." With each word, I felt the weight of my journey lifting, replaced by a profound sense of purpose. I shared my own story, the heartbreak of losing my grandmother, the revelation of my adoption, and the path that had led me to this stage. I watched as tears glistened in the eyes of those who understood my pain. Together, we can foster empathy and understanding, I concluded. Let's ensure that no one feels alone in their journey. The audience erupted into applause. In that moment, I knew I had found my voice, not just for myself, but for everyone who had ever felt unheard. I was committed to this cause, to advocating for social justice in the adoption community and ensuring that every story was seen and celebrated. As I stepped off the stage, the energy in the room was palpable. I had taken a leap, and it felt like I was soaring. I was no longer just a daughter or an adoptee. I was an advocate, a beacon of hope for those who needed it. There's a weight that comes with loss, a heaviness that seeps into every corner of your life, reminding you of what you had and what you've lost. My grandmother's funeral was not just a goodbye. It was a revelation that shattered the very foundation of my identity. Standing there, surrounded by family and friends, I felt the warmth of their love, but also the chill of unspoken truths. I had always cherished the stories my grandmother shared, her laughter echoing in my heart. But now, those stories felt tinged with a bittersweet reality. I learned that I was adopted, and that revelation was a storm that turned my world upside down. In the days that followed, I found myself enveloped in memories of her. She was more than just a grandmother. She was a beacon of love and resilience. Every moment spent with her taught me the true meaning of family, an unbreakable bond forged through connection and compassion. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that her spirit lived on in me, guiding my steps, urging me to honor her legacy. I wanted to do something meaningful, something that would not only commemorate her memory, but also create a ripple of change in the world. I decided to establish a scholarship in her name for children in foster care. This initiative felt right. It was a way to give back, to ensure that others would have opportunities that may have been out of reach, just as I had been given a chance to thrive. The process of creating the scholarship was both rewarding and challenging. I reached out to local charities, seeking their guidance and support. As I collaborated with them, I poured my heart into this endeavor. I envisioned a future where children in foster care could pursue their dreams, just as my grandmother had encouraged me to do. Each meeting sparked a sense of purpose within me, igniting a fire that I hadn't felt in a long time. Yet, there were moments of doubt. I questioned whether I was capable of making a difference. Could my small efforts truly impact the lives of others? Those thoughts lingered like shadows in the back of my mind. But every time I felt discouraged, I remembered my grandmother's words. Every act of love, no matter how small, creates a wave of change. Her voice echoed in my heart, reminding me that even the simplest acts of kindness held the power to transform lives. As the scholarship launch event approached, I felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. I had decided to share my story, to open my heart to those gathered. It was a moment that demanded vulnerability, but I knew it was essential. I wanted people to understand that family isn't solely defined by blood. It's about the connections we forge and the love we share. On the day of the event, the venue was filled with an electric energy. Friends, family, and community members filled the seats, their faces reflecting a mosaic of emotions: curiosity, hope, and solidarity. I stood before them, my heart racing, the weight of my journey pressing against my chest like a heavy cloak. With a deep breath, I began. Thank you all for being here today to honor my grandmother's legacy. I stand before you not just as her granddaughter, but as someone who understands the importance of love and connection. For years, I thought family was defined by blood ties, but I learned that it's so much more. It's about the moments we share, the lessons we learn, and the love we give, freely. As I spoke, I saw nods of understanding, tears glistening in some eyes. I recounted my journey, the confusion of discovering my adoption at such a pivotal moment, and how my grandmother had always been a source of unconditional love, regardless of the circumstances of my birth. I shared how her stories had shaped my understanding of family, teaching me that love transcends mere biology. I want to create opportunities for children who may not have the same support I did, I continued, my voice steadying with conviction. This scholarship is not just about financial aid. It's about hope, about believing in the potential within every child. It's about ensuring that they know they are worthy of love and success, no matter their circumstances. The response was overwhelming. Applause erupted, and I could see the spark of inspiration igniting in the crowd. Faces brightened, and I could feel the collective energy shift. My past, once a source of pain, had transformed into a catalyst for change, igniting a passion within others to take action. After the event, people approached me with words of encouragement and shared their own stories. Each conversation was a thread weaving a tapestry of connection and understanding. I felt hope blossom within me, a reminder that my journey had the power to inspire others. I realized that the legacy of love my grandmother left behind was not just for me. It was a gift meant to be shared with the world. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in the scholarship initiative. I worked alongside the charities, developing plans to reach out to potential applicants and create a supportive community for scholarship recipients. It was hard work, but it was fulfilling. Each step we took felt like a tribute to my grandmother's spirit. As I navigated this new chapter, I encountered challenges, bureaucratic hurdles, funding issues, and moments of self-doubt. Yet, I pressed on, fueled by the love and support that surrounded me. My grandmother's laughter echoed in my mind, urging me to persevere. One evening, as I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by papers and notes, I paused to reflect on how far I had come. My heart swelled with gratitude for the journey, the lessons, and the love that had carried me through. I realized that my grandmother's legacy wasn't just about the scholarship. It was about the connections forged in the hearts of those touched by her kindness. As I looked out the window, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, I felt a profound sense of peace. I understood now that love transcends blood. It's about the bonds we build, the compassion we extend, and the legacies we leave behind. My grandmother's life was a testament to that truth, and I was determined to honor it in every way I could. And as I continued this journey, I knew that I was not alone. I had a community rallying around me, and together, we would create a legacy of love that would echo through the lives of many. I stand at the edge of a new chapter, feeling the weight of my past transform into the foundation of my future. The scholarship I established in my grandmother's name is more than a financial resource. It's a beacon of hope for others navigating the often murky waters of adoption and identity. As I look back on the journey that brought me here, I can hardly believe the distance I've traveled. From the heartache of discovery to the empowerment of advocacy. I remember the first time I stood before a group of young people sharing my story. Their eyes were wide with understanding, each nodding as I spoke of the complexities of belonging. I spoke not just of loss, but of the connections I forged with my biological family and the love that my adoptive parents gave me. That moment of honesty, of vulnerability, felt like a turning point. It was no longer just my story. It was ours, a collective narrative of resilience. What does it mean to truly belong? I've pondered this question more times than I can count. Each answer I find only leads to deeper inquiries. The scholarship is one step toward creating a community, a safe space for others who feel like they are straddling two worlds. In this sanctuary, we can share our experiences, fears, and triumphs without judgment. It's a vision I hold close, igniting a fire within me each time I think about the lives we can touch together. As I prepare to write my book, I envision the pages filled with the tales of those who came before me and the lessons I've learned along the way. I want to share the raw, unfiltered truth of what it's like to grapple with your identity while also learning to embrace the love that surrounds you. How can we learn to celebrate the beauty in our complexities? This is what I want to communicate through my writing. Sitting in my grandmother's garden, a place where sunlight filters through rustling leaves, I feel her spirit guiding me. I remember her words, filled with wisdom, reminding me that every story has value. It's a lesson I carry with me, feeling that urge to honor her legacy with every word I write. Each time I speak of her, I feel a connection that transcends the boundaries of life and death. She is here with me, a constant reminder of the importance of love and community. I often think of the people I've met through my advocacy efforts. Those who have shared their own stories of adoption, loss, and the courage it takes to face the world. Their voices echo in my heart, a chorus of strength that fuels my determination. I want my book to be a rallying cry for those who feel alone in their struggles, a reminder that they are part of a larger narrative that deserves to be told. Embracing my identity has been a journey in itself. Each encounter with my biological family has added layers to my understanding of who I am. There are moments of joy and connection, woven with the threads of uncertainty and heartache. But in this tapestry of emotions, I find beauty. I've learned that it's okay to feel complicated feelings. It's okay to navigate the murky waters of belonging. In fact, it's what makes us human. As I reflect on the lessons learned, I am filled with optimism. I know that challenges lie ahead, but I am ready to face them head-on. I can feel the strength of the community I am building, a network of people eager to share their stories and support one another. Together, we can create a movement that not only raises awareness about the complexities of adoption, but also advocates for social justice, the right for every individual to know their roots and to celebrate their journeys. What would it mean to change the narrative surrounding adoption? I believe it starts with understanding, compassion, and love. If we can shift the conversation to one of unity rather than division, we can foster a world where every person feels valued and heard. This is the world I dream of, a place where stories are shared freely and every voice matters. I'm reminded of a young girl I met at one of my workshops. She was hesitant at first, her eyes downcast as she listened to the stories of others. But as the hours passed, I watched her transform. She began to share her own experience, her voice gaining strength with each word. By the end of the day, she was radiant, her confidence blooming like the flowers in my grandmother's garden. It was moments like these that solidify my purpose. What if we could inspire more young people to embrace their narratives? This thought invigorates me, fueling my commitment to advocacy. I want to create more spaces for these transformations to happen, to nurture the seeds of hope within others. With every person I meet, I feel the ripples of change spreading. I envision a future where we can advocate for policies that support families touched by adoption, ensuring that every child knows they are loved and valued, regardless of their beginnings. I dream of collaborating with organizations that uplift marginalized voices, amplifying the stories that often go unheard. As I step into this new chapter of my life, I carry my grandmother's legacy with me. Her love was a guiding light, illuminating my path even in the darkest of times. I know I will face challenges, but I am armed with the knowledge that I am not alone. I have built a community, forged connections, and uncovered truths that will empower me as I move forward. What will I discover next in this journey? As I prepare to dive into my writing, I feel a swell of excitement mixed with a hint of apprehension. This is a journey of exploration, an opportunity to not just reflect on my past, but to dream boldly about the future. I close my eyes, allowing the sounds of nature to envelop me, the gentle whisper of the wind, the chirping of birds, the rustle of leaves. In this moment, I feel at peace. I am ready to embrace my story, to honor my roots, and to inspire others to do the same. With each word I write, I will strive to uplift others, reminding them that their stories matter, that they matter. No matter how complicated our journeys may be, we have the power to change the narrative, to embrace the beauty of our identities, and to create a world where every voice is celebrated. This is just the beginning. As I stand here, surrounded by a sea of faces cloaked in grief, I can't help but feel the weight of my journey pressing down on me. Today, we laid my grandmother to rest, a woman who shaped my understanding of love and family in ways I only began to grasp after her passing. It was at this solemn occasion that I stumbled upon the truth that would unravel everything I thought I knew about myself. I found out I was adopted. The revelation crashed over me like a tidal wave, threatening to drown me in confusion and heartache. Yet amidst the sorrow, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me, a spark that whispered of transformation. My grandmothers, both biological and adoptive, were powerful forces in my life, each imparting lessons that would guide me through the darkest corners of my existence. I remember my adoptive grandmother's gentle hands, always ready to soothe my fears, while my biological grandmother offered wisdom wrapped in her laughter, teaching me to embrace life's imperfections. They both played an integral role in shaping the tapestry of who I am today. As I reflect on their legacies, I find solace in the relationships I've built, the voices I've discovered, and the impact I've made through my advocacy work. My journey has been marked by moments of connection, each one a thread weaving through my story. I've learned that love transcends bloodlines, and the bonds we forge with those around us can define us just as much as our origins. The struggles I faced have not only shaped my identity, but have also illuminated the paths of others. Through storytelling, I've found healing. My narrative is not just mine. It resonates with many who feel lost or disconnected. I've listened to their stories, shared their pain, and celebrated their victories. In every exchange, I've discovered the power of vulnerability and authenticity. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our struggles, that there are countless souls navigating similar waters. Each story shared is a lifeline, a connection that strengthens the fabric of our community. As I stand here, I'm flooded with gratitude for the lessons learned from my grandmothers. They taught me to embrace my complexities, to seek understanding in the chaos of life. I remember sitting with my adoptive grandmother on the porch, the sun casting a warm glow over us as she spoke of her own journey, one that was filled with heartache and joy. She taught me that every scar tells a story, that our past does not define us but rather informs us, and my biological grandmother, with her fierce spirit and unwavering love, taught me to fight for my truth. She would say, "Never shy away from who you are, darling. Your story is your strength." Her words echo through my mind as I reflect on my own narrative, the twists and turns that have led me here today. The challenges I faced along the way have only deepened my resolve. There were moments when I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, where the fear of rejection loomed large. But as I leaned into my truth, I found a community that embraced me, flaws and all. I discovered that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. I've become an advocate for those who feel voiceless, championing the importance of family, love, and acceptance. Each speech I give, each story I share, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. I've seen firsthand how sharing our experiences can spark change, ignite conversations, and foster understanding. In this journey of self-discovery, I've learned that identity is not static. It's a fluid concept, shaped by our experiences, our relationships, and our choices. My life is a mosaic of moments, each one contributing to the person I am today. The more I share, the more I realize that my story is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. As I prepare to step into the future, I do so with a renewed sense of purpose. I've come to understand that my path is not just about me, it's about the connections I make and the lives I touch. I embrace the unknown with open arms, ready to continue sharing my journey and fostering relationships that celebrate the complexities of family. I look out at the faces gathered here today, each one carrying their own stories, their own struggles. It's a reminder that we are all part of a greater narrative, woven together by love, loss, and the search for belonging. We may not all have the same experiences, but our hearts beat in unison, echoing the same desires for connection and understanding. As I conclude my journey here, I carry my grandmother's teachings with me, lessons of love, resilience, and the importance of sharing our truths. I will continue to advocate for those who feel lost, to shine a light on the shadows that often go unseen. And I will keep telling my story, knowing that it serves as a beacon of hope for others seeking their own truths. So, as I stand at this crossroads, I invite you to join me. Let's celebrate the stories that bind us, the connections that uplift us, and the love that transforms us. Together, we can create a world where every voice is heard, every story is valued, and every heart finds its home. If this journey has resonated with you, I invite you to explore 2 more standout stories right on your screen. You won't want to miss them. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from us.